Welcome back, everybody. Session 2 of the Exponential Destiny program presenting the Exponential Entrepreneur series, April 17th. How's Friday treating you, Marco?
I'm doing good. I think it's a lovely day outside. I went to throw out the trash. That was pretty much my day outside today.
Yeah. That's about the outdoor excitement you got today?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's going to start warming up too because it's supposed to be in the 80s by next week. That'll be interesting with coronavirus testing people's willpower to stay inside. And you don't really have to stay inside as much as just keep social distancing. I mean, I ride a bike every weekend. I ride a bike from like Marina Del Rey to Manhattan Beach. They shut down the sidewalk, but you can ride on there's still a walkway, or the street has a walkway that you can ride. But you know, I'm far away from everyone. I even wear a mask, just a scarf while I'm riding, but it feels good to get outside, you know?
Good idea, yeah. I picked up road biking in high school, and now that I'm back, I'm slowly getting back into it.
How about you, Kevin? What are you up to?
I'm not sure. I went for a run in the morning. It's kind of nice to just get out of the house, even if it's not, socializing with anyone. It just feels nice, kind of just feel the sun and stuff. I'm not sure yet. I'm probably just gonna stay home for the weekend.
All right. Well, if we had more time, we could talk about what you all are binge watching while you're at home. But let's get started because I think we've got a pretty good group that's joined here. If anyone's joined who wasn't on the session yesterday was a pretty important session. We covered quite a bit, but fortunately at exponentialdestiny.com, there's an option on the website called Discovery Session Videos. It's one of the main options, and if you go to that, you can see the recording from yesterday. So I highly encourage you to go check that out if you haven't already. I'm going to share my screen here and get this started. Session. So this is session 2. So just a little bit of a recap. Yesterday, we talked about that first bullet point. So who's going to teach us, who's going to coach it, and why are we doing this? Anyone have any questions about the why before we get into the next discussion? If anyone has any questions or has any comments about what we talked about yesterday, not that you have to have any questions or comments, but just curious if anyone does before we go on to this next, talking about the how. All right, so with this next section, we're discussing, like we referred to it yesterday, it's called the theory of impact. I don't know if you've used this concept of theory of impact and theory of change, but whether you're part of a business organization or a social impact organization, you really have to think about what is your theory of impact. And if you're going to be very innovative, you need to have a theory of change. That's basically just saying, what's your strategy? Yeah, what's your strategy for impact? And it's got to be convincing enough that if you share with someone your idea, a business idea, for example, it's got to be what's called an elevator pitch. And so the term elevator pitch in business is referring to basically saying if you're in an elevator and you only have 30 seconds and you're in an elevator, all of a sudden some investor walks in or your boss walks in, you want to give them an idea, or you're an entrepreneur and you're pitching this to someone you want to be a partner with. You got 30 seconds in the elevator, so what's your elevator pitch? You know, what's your sale? It's kind of like, what's your sales pitch? What do you have to, how are you going to sell me on your idea? And it's hard to come up with an elevator pitch. And a lot of times entrepreneurs think through a lot of different permutations of how to say that elevator pitch. We're going to practice that. And eventually you're going to get very good at it, because getting a first impression or describing to someone what it is that you're doing is key. But the thing about a good elevator pitch is it's got the wow factor perhaps in terms of what you're doing, but there's got to be a little notion of the theory of impact, which means, anyone can tell me anything. There's not a shortage of good ideas out there, or a goal of where you want to be. I want to save the world. Okay, well, what's your theory of impact? I like the goal, you want to save the world, but what's your theory of impact? Because a lot of people are trying to save the world and it's not always happening. So what's your theory of making that impact? What's your strategy for doing it? And we're going to go through a very exhaustive discussion about what is the theory of impact, of how collectively all of us together are going to raise each other to where ideally you all become exponential entrepreneurs. You have the confidence, the skill sets, the competency, the capability to actually proceed in defining a model, a business model that can be social impact related or commercial related. Commercial related means just driven by making money, making income. Social impact related means you're trying to make an impact on the planet or on society, on life. And ideally you find both, right? So when you hear me say exponential entrepreneur making a business impact, I'm always thinking it's a social entrepreneur making a business impact, but you're making money so you can sustain yourself and support your family. Okay, you're not driven just by money, but that's important, that you can make an income. You have a job and you're your own boss. So whenever you hear me describe what we're focused on here in terms of creating a business, think about it through that context, okay? But if I said to you, we're going to make you exponential entrepreneurs, first of all, I never would promise that. I don't think Marco would promise that either. It's some hard work and determination, but it's very, very feasible. That's what we're trying to tell you. It is very feasible. Don't for a second. I don't care what your background is. I don't care if you're flunking out of school. I don't care if you don't think you're good at math or you just got to trust us on this. What we're going to teach you is as much art and creativity as it is analytics. So I don't want you to think if you're not that analytical that you're not going to be good in business or being an entrepreneur. You'll find a way here. Some of the best, most effective entrepreneurs are those that are actually more creative. So whatever your skill set, whatever your background is, you got to think positively about this. And back to this theory of impact, I could say to you, Marco and I could say to you, and the team could say, we're gonna make you an exponential entrepreneur. And I don't think you should completely buy into that until you understand how, the theory of impact. What's our strategy for doing that? And we should be able to describe it in an elevator pitch, meaning to you at a very high level, just so you kind of understand. That's what a good elevator pitch has. But fortunately, we have more than 30 seconds on elevator here. We've got the next 30 minutes or so to talk about the theory of impact, and that's what I'd like to cover primarily today. With that said, I think because these are some of the earlier sessions, because we did the first session, we launched it yesterday, today's the second session, it's probably good, Marco and team, that we do introductions just very quickly until people get familiar with who's, the core team here. So Marco, why don't you, like similarly yesterday, we want to kick that off and then pass it around with the group?
Yeah, sounds great. My name, can everyone hear me? Yeah, good. My name is Marco Vargas, and I'm the managing partner at Fifth Sun Pictures, and I graduated from Nava College Prep in 2018. So I'm really excited to see some names from Nava College Prep.
Hello, my name is Christian Solorzano. I am the creative director at Fifth Sun Pictures. I graduated from Venice High School, but I did attend Nava College Preparatory Academy in 9th grade. And everyone here on the team has experience with running a business since we were like 15 years old. That's when we started, but yeah.
Hey guys, my name is Kevin Vega. I went to Nava College Prep last year, so I graduated class of 2019. Now I attend Grand Canyon University in Phoenix, Arizona, and there I started a company with one of my other friends. We created an app, and now we're just ready to launch as soon as we go back to school.
Hi everybody.
We can hear you, Pablo.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. So I'm Pablo. I'm also a managing partner at Fizzle Pictures with Marcos and Chris. I'm a senior at Nava, so I'm still in high school, right? I'm the youngest person of the group at only 18, but I'm picking it up and doing what I can to be a part of the community.
And then we have Noelia here who's in the back.
I'm Noelia Pineda. I'm the graphic designer here at Fizzle Pictures, and I'm an alumni from NCPA.
Yeah, sorry, she's not on the camera because she's doing a little bit
I'm
of
working.
background work, but she's hearing us. She's
And
hearing.
you're a tough boss, Marco. You got her working while she's doing the session here.
It was her idea.
Jeez.
Yeah, but she's listening.
On a Friday at 5 o'clock, nonetheless. All right. I see how you are. Don't worry, Noella. We'll work on that. All righty. Let's get started. A couple things from yesterday, and Marco or Christensen or Pablo, Kevin, Noella, you can chime in too. Just I want to highlight a few topics from yesterday in terms of what are some of the key messages. The one thing I'll share was, with the coronavirus and all of us working from home and everyone being confined to their houses, I referenced the LA Times article yesterday about a lot of students are AWOL at the LAUSD, the school district here in Los Angeles, the public school district, meaning they're not showing up. The emphasis was go to your classes, give the school system a little bit of benefit of the doubt as they try to transition to this distance learning model. It's not easy. That's the priority. That's plan A. Plan B is to supplement it with what we're doing here at 5 o'clock every day. Anyone else have something they want to share just as far as something that came up yesterday they want to reinforce or?
Yeah, I think someone asked like what kind of businesses we're gonna learn. I think what you mentioned is that we're kind of gonna cover all the businesses, if that makes any sense. And if there's anything that we don't touch up or something that is never mentioned, you guys can always like bring it up and kind of ask, hey, oh, you guys didn't talk about this. Do you mind kind of just bringing it up? Because this is like an interactive experience. It's not just us talking. It's not just Marcus talking. It's gonna be you guys talking. You guys can share. If we miss anything, or even if you think the information we gave is not complete, then you can just kind of chime in and kind of like offer up more information on whatever we're talking about.
Yeah, and
That's great.
additionally, we want to be, what we really want to establish through the Exponential Destiny is a community of mentors where we can develop a relationship with students who a few years ago were in your shoes and now who have graduated and started businesses or doing social impact work in the community. And so really we want to make ourselves accessible, not only as mentors, but truly as friends, where at some point, it's kind of our dream to make you feel comfortable enough to like send us an email, a text, arrange a call, whatever it may be, so that we can give you guidance on any initiatives that you may want to start.
And real quickly on that point, I just can't emphasize enough how awesome that is. I mean, the fact that you got the team here in your local community out of high school running their own business and they're offering to be part of your network and to be your mentor, man, if there was ever time in your life to rise up and jump on an opportunity, that's the one. That's the epitome of taking control of your destiny. I mean, you've got such great individuals as part of this group who have already learned these lessons, who wants to teach it to you. So they're right there in your community there. So take advantage of that. I think that's awesome, Marco and team. Anybody else from the group?
I could talk. So yesterday we were discussing like how we can implement like technology and like different models that we could implement into starting a business and making it successful. So throughout this program, we will be going over that and helping you guys and also with us as well, learning how we can implement new technology into our business. So yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about a lot here.
All righty. Anybody else? Otherwise, we'll get started. Anyone outside of the core team? You don't have to be shy. You don't have to speak up, but if you'd like to, by all means. I mean, we, just like Kevin was saying, we want some interaction. So hopefully you start to feel comfortable, like we're all in a room sitting around a dinner table or something and talking.
Yeah. Feel free to unmute yourself if you want to ever say something.
Yeah, unmute yourself if you want to say something. And I put some things in here where you can raise your hand now. There should be a control that lets you raise your hand. There's also a control that should let you even make a reaction. There's a reaction button there now, so you can actually put a thumbs up. I would have put a thumbs down icon in there, but there is no thumbs down icon, but I tried. Just in
There
case.
is.
I see someone comment, I want to learn more about how to implement technology and creativity with ideas. Well, I think you probably came to the right place.
Yeah.
Came to the right place.
And also thank you, Stephanie, for being for commenting. I think also yesterday. So I love the interaction that you're doing.
Yes, please interact. Again, you don't have to, but if there's some place to practice some confidence, to ask questions, this is a complete safe zone. No one's going to judge you. No questions stupid. Ask every question. Matter of fact, the only way we're going to be successful is if you ask some questions, because we might be talking about things and it might not be making sense to you, because we talk about this so much that it just seems normal to us. And so even though we're trying to explain things for the first time that you maybe are hearing, we don't know. Maybe we're going too fast. Maybe we're using words that you don't understand because we're abbreviating them, or you just haven't heard that vocabulary yet. So you just gotta interject. I mean, this is for you. So it's a total waste of time for us just to hear ourselves do this. So make it useful to you. And if you're thinking about if you're not understanding something, probably a lot of other people are not understanding it. So please say something. You know, if we have time today, I'm going to give a story about one of the students at Napa College Prep back from 2015 when we did the Exponential Entrepreneur program. When I started that at the high school here that Marco and everyone was from. I remember there was a breakthrough moment with some of the students when they realized, wait a second, I just thought of a great idea that it could be a good business idea. And I remember everybody's perspective shifted. They're like, I don't know if you remember this, Marco. We'll get to it later, but I'll see if you remember. But it was like a student came up with an idea based on a lesson we did. And it was very much like, Stephanie, what you're asking about. It was a very creative idea, implementing some technology. But it was after I described basically how Uber and Airbnb use the sharing economy and excess capacity and crowdsourcing. And we talked, and you probably don't know what that means, but we'll go through it. But I described this through a lesson, and all of a sudden one of the students came up with an idea, and it was like a legit idea. Like I would have invested in it. I'm not, you know, it's like, and everyone realized it was a good idea. So we'll bring some of those examples back so you start to realize what we mean when we say starting a new business, becoming an entrepreneur. Okay? So let's talk about the how this is going to come together, this theory of impact. So we discussed yesterday a few things. We discussed the who, if you remember. We discussed who's going to be teaching all this stuff, who's going to be coaching on all this stuff. And you met this core team here, right? And then myself. And so we've got these different elements, and this is why we think this could be an effective program and what's unique about it. And this is what we call our theory of impact. So first of all, as we covered yesterday, one element or one piece of the puzzle is that you need to understand the tools that are in your toolbox if you want to be an entrepreneur, especially an exponential entrepreneur. And I'm not going to go over these all again because we touched on them briefly yesterday, but this is where we're going to spend a lot of the next few weeks. Just slowly getting you a good appreciation and understanding and some exposure to what we call exponential technologies. And they're called exponential technologies because they're converging and the cost is coming down at an exponential pace, while the quality, speed, and access is going up at an exponential pace, not at a linear pace. And we'll talk more about exponential versus linear, but it just means that at a pace that is hard for your brain to comprehend, but the empirical data shows that the cost has a doubling pattern in terms of coming down in price of these technologies, and a doubling pattern of the quality and access and the power of these capabilities. So that means before you know it, this doubling pattern results in these exponential technologies being accessible to you, where 10 years ago it was only accessible to a big government or a big business and cost millions of dollars and fit in the size of a basement. Now it's coming down to your desktop, okay? And we're going to spend a lot of time on this, but this is one piece of the puzzle. I mean, we top lined these yesterday, but artificial intelligence, 3D printing, biotechnology, genome sequencing, CRISPR-Cas9, some of those tools, material sciences, virtual and augmented reality. You know, virtual reality, meaning you see nothing but a digital world when you put on a headset. Augmented reality means you see all of the real world that you see, just like if I put on regular glasses like this, but it augments a digital overlay onto the real world. So it's augmented reality. So I see a digital object that's sitting in my room, but it's my room I'm looking at. Virtual reality means everything is virtual. I don't see anything in the real world. And those are two types. And man, is that an exciting field. And I've used, under non-disclosure agreement, I've used some amazing technology. So I know where this is headed. And it's headed there fast. And it's going to be one of those things that just changes the world overnight. Very exciting. And there's a lot you can do with it. Anyways, advanced robotics, networks and sensors. Advanced robotics, by the way, can be anything from a drone to one of those robots you see in a factory, right? To a self-driving car. That's a robotic. Networks and sensors, the Internet of Things, the fact that every device is connected to the internet, and there'll be billions of devices that we'll see in the next few years that all come online. So not just people getting online, but every physical thing comes online. That can be helpful not only as a consumer when you have your stove that tells you that it's overheating via the internet, or you're in a factory of a warehouse of an organization that makes automobiles, and you have all these networks and sensors in the supply chain, in the manufacturing plant, that do things and notify you of things that before a human had to go observe. Now the machines can talk to you. So that can be used in business as well. Quantum computing, we discussed that yesterday. Blockchain, which is the underlying infrastructure and technology platform that powers digital currencies like Bitcoin, but can be used for other things. We'll discuss that. Nanotechnology. There's others that aren't on this list, but that's a pretty good macro category, you know, some of the mega categories. And then crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, sharing economy, maker movement, game mechanics, design thinking, spatial web, digital currencies, mobile social economy. Again, this is kind of the playbook, you know, and if you can get a comprehension of this, which we plan to do over the next couple months, to where you can pick up any article and you can read it, and it will talk about one or more of these things. Almost every article today, when you hear about a new startup and you hear about a new business being launched, the new best thing, the new cool thing, it's basically using this stuff here to make that playbook. And you don't have to be a programmer or developer in any of this stuff. We're not asking you to code here. You just have to have an appreciation and understanding of what it is and what's the art of the possible, so you can understand how these pieces can fit together and what business you could potentially launch, or how you might be able to solve a grand challenge in the world, or both. You know, a good example of a new technology that came out, like what's something that came out recently? How about the, what are the scooters called that are all over the streets?
The birds.
The birds. Okay, so those birds.
There's a couple companies, yeah.
So think about that. Think about the birds, the scooters that are all over California now, right? At one point, a bunch of entrepreneurs were sitting in a room somewhere thinking about a startup and thinking, what could we do? What's a business model we could create that leverages technology that's out there that could just change things forever, right? And if you think about it, first thing they thought about was, how about the sharing economy? What we mean by sharing economy is this new notion that people share excess capacity, that people will share a spare bedroom in their house that they don't use anymore. That's how Airbnb got started. Or people will share idle capacity, like a car that sits in their driveway with that they don't use 24/7. Why don't I put that car into the Uber fleet, right? Lots of examples of excess capacity that gets put into the sharing economy, or idle capacity that gets in the sharing economy. In other words, what's something that you have or that you see that's not used 24/7, that's idle, that's not being used all the time? Like the tennis racket behind Marco in his room there.
Mm-hmm.
He probably hasn't used that for years. No, I'm just kidding. I heard you're a good tennis player. We got to play.
Yeah, we should. Kevin,
Yes, I love tennis. And that's social distancing.
Yeah, Kevin was on the team on the varsity team with me at.
Oh, that's so fun. Cool. We're
Yeah,
definitely going to
that's
play
so
because I
awesome.
love tennis. You're going to kick my butt, but I don't know what I just signed up for there. I'm probably going to be embarrassed. But like, you know, in all seriousness, the tennis racket right there.
Mhm.
What if Marco and Kevin decided, you know what, let's create a business where these tennis rackets that I'm sure everybody has in their garage, in their house that they don't use all the time, why don't we put it into its excess capacity, its idle capacity? It's an asset, a tennis racket that's not being used all day, every day. It's idle. Why don't we get value from it? It's already paid for. Why don't we put it into the sharing economy, just like Uber and Airbnb does? If someone's willing to share a spare bedroom in their house with strangers, you think it's a far-fetched idea to share a tennis racket? So why don't we take the tennis racket and create an app that crowdsources, there's another word up there, supply and demand, to allow people to connect the supply and demand to share these tennis rackets that are idle all around our neighborhood here. And in terms of tech, notice we haven't even talked about technology other than the app connecting supply and demand. The next thing would be, well, what are some issues? What are some challenges? What could be an issue with this model? Well, what if someone just steals the tennis racket, or they lose it, or they forget about it, or they don't bring it back? That's a risk. That business model doesn't work if people walk away with their tennis rackets. Well, there's IoT, the Internet of Things. You could go online right now and buy a sensor for probably, you know, $30 or $40 that you can embed in the handle of that tennis racket. And it will have a GPS tracker that will tell you where that tennis racket is at all times. I think I did this the other day because I was looking one for my cat, and I'm serious about this. I was looking for a GPS for my cat, so when she goes outside, she doesn't get lost. They're about $100, $120. Guess what? 5 years ago, they were probably about $10,000. 10 years ago, you couldn't even afford it, and they were huge. You could never put it on a cat. Now they're small, light, and for $100, guess what? In 5 years, they'll probably be $30. They might even be 20 cents that you'll be able to get them for. It's going to be an abundance of this technology because that's exponentially coming down in price, and the quality is going to go way up. Right now, it might not work that great on the GPS. 5 years from now, I can see it anywhere in the world, right? So I could put the technology inside that tennis racket, just like Bird does with the scooters. They have a GPS tracker. You see what's happening here, guys? It's an idea, and you can put it together. And guess what? I could do that and probably test that whole concept for under $1,000, the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing. I could set up the business, get it running, and take the risk and see if it works. And if I fail, I learned something. Maybe I learned how to not make it fail. Maybe I did the model and I didn't get the sensor yet, and I realized it failed because people were stealing the rackets. So then I put the sensor in it, and then people knew there was a sensor in it. They could see there was a sensor on it, so they wouldn't take it. Or maybe I don't put the sensor on it, and I realize people are honest and they're not stealing it. Or they only 1 in 100 gets stolen, and it's not that big of a deal but then everyone can pay and use it. So rather than buying a new tennis racket, I can rent the tennis racket for $1 for the day, go to Marco's house, grab it. Marco knows I'm coming because the app tells him that I'm renting it.
Mm-hmm.
Take the tennis racket, use it for an hour, bring it back, or use it for the day. And that's how Marco and Kevin in that model make some money over time. And what did they actually have to buy? Nothing, because everyone's using their tennis rackets that's already purchased. I mean, it's just a random idea we just thought of here. But you got to take that and expand that into your thinking about crowdsourcing, sharing economy, excess capacity, in that case, Internet of Things, robotics. That's basically what the Bird model is, right? They just took sensors, put it in the sharing economy, dumped a bunch of them on the streets, and then they get paid every time somebody uses it. That was capacity they created. They created those. They had to manufacture those. They actually put a lot of capital costs, but it was still a very profitable business. I think they're at $1 billion valuation, right? To take that a step further, try doing that with existing assets, the tennis racket or the bike in your garage or something like that. So, that's 1 out of 1 million ideas. And that's kind of what we're talking about when I say this is your toolbox. These are all the things in your toolbox. There's an exercise we'll go through later that talks about how do you formulate that business strategy. Okay? So anyone have any questions or comments about that? I don't know if Marco or Christensen or Noella, anyone want to add anything else? Feel free.
And I know you mentioned, you know, like for $1,000, you could potentially kickstart an idea like that. I just want to add to that point that, you know, like with these ideas, like there are organizations like not only like in the world, but like literally in our community who want to support these initiatives, specifically like social impact and entrepreneurs from our community. And so like, you know, something like $1,000, in case that may sound, you know, because I know, you know, we're at the age where like we're starting to work with like bigger budgets, and you know, but like that's actually very feasible. And you know, there are organizations that it's almost like they'll kind of throw the money at you because you have an idea and they want to see what you do with that. And you know, and I think any one of us could probably help you get that, you know, secure that funding through an organization, or we could fundraise it to like GoFundMe, whatever the case. But like,
Holy.
I think that that point of like, you know, like the cost of $1,000 in budgets, like these ideas to just kickstart them is really, really feasible for someone, you know, for all these ideas that we'll come up with.
Yeah, by the way, that's a great point, Marco. The average cost right now, I heard an estimate to actually go and start a business online to be able to sell things and distribute things and market things is under $20.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it's actually free. Now, why would that be? Well, the reason is because Google and Amazon and Salesforce and Microsoft, they want you to use their platforms. They want you to use their platforms, and just like Facebook is free, right? So they're all competing for your entrepreneurial business to set up your shop on their platforms, because downstream they'll figure out ways to make money off of you for renting additional things. So they give you a lot of their stuff for free. So it's extremely cheap, if not completely free, to launch a business and get it up and running. You don't have to get a lawyer and set it all up and all that stuff. That comes if you start to get more mature and sophisticated with it. But initially you can go in as what's called an independent, you know, just do it as an independent business. You don't have to incorporate right away or do anything like that. I'm sure Marco and others will talk about that on a later call. But it's not like there's a lot of barriers. And the big thing here was, Marco, and I'm glad you brought this up. You know, we talked about this yesterday. When I was your age, I'd have to go to a bank to get a loan or ask if maybe see if my parents would give me some money to do something like that, right? You're not going to banks to get loans anymore. And by the way, when I went to a bank to get a loan, I had to show them my credit score and I had to interview for the loan and all that stuff. And maybe they discriminate against me and because I don't have a good grades or I don't have a history of credit or what have you. That game is over. The internet has access to 4.5 billion people. You can crowdfund. You know, you can fundraise. You know, Marco brought up a good point. If you've got a good idea, there's tons of venture capitalists and angel investors or nonprofits that are actually looking for ideas, structured ideas. And as long as you can do that elevator pitch really effectively, like we described, and go through your theory of impact and what the whole structure of your business idea is, you'll see that people will invest in you. Okay, there's never been a time where we've had more of an abundance of capital, of money out there that's being used for the startup ecosystem.
I want to give a little, I guess a little follow up on what Marco said and when you mentioned Marcus. When I wanted to start a business on campus, it seemed impossible because I thought I did the math and I thought I needed like $6,000-7,000 to start, which is crazy because I didn't need that much. If at all, I needed about $1,000-2,000, but still I was kind of worried like where am I gonna get this money from? But then I went to my university, kind of just like mentioning like, hey, I have this idea, and then they're like, oh, cool, like we'll fund it for you, and I was like, what? Like that's crazy, and that just goes to show that just asking, kind of just talking around, just communicating with people, like sharing your idea. There's people that want to help you. There's people that want to fund your ideas. Like it's not like Marcus was saying. There's no reason to get a loan. There's no reason to go put yourself in debt anymore because there's pitch competitions. There's angel investors. There's all these places where you're able to get money to start a business, and it's like it's crazy. We're in the age where we're basically money to start up is everywhere, and it's just a matter of kind of just looking for it, and you'll eventually find it.
Money to start up is everywhere. I love that, Kevin, and it really is. So we're sharing with you, all of you listening to this, there really is a lot of money out there for you if you want to start something up. And I'd also say this, and this is a little bit sensitive, so Marco, Kevin, and the team, you can help me with this one. But in an unusual way, kind of in an ironic way, where sometimes minorities get discriminated against in terms of, you know, getting a loan at a bank, for example, right? That's always been an issue. Someone would stereotype. In an interesting twist of things, I would say that some of the money that's out there for venture capitalists to fund entrepreneurs, they're actually looking very hard for minority representation or people from low-income neighborhoods, because they want to see it get more balanced. They want to see more businesses being started or more ideas getting funded in neighborhoods that aren't having that, so society can prosper, so everyone can prosper. So in kind of a weird way, if your situation is you're from a low income, maybe you're the first person in your family to go to college, or maybe you're not even going to college, but you're trying to get out of a cycle of poverty or what have you. If you're a minority and you're in that situation, if you're not a minority in that situation, regardless, when you go approach, if you can button yourself up in terms of real professional, go out and present an idea and coming up with ideas is not going to be the hard part here. Execution is the hard part. Coming up with a good idea, they're out there, trust me. But getting money for that good idea is not as hard as it sounds, because when you go present that idea, the idea will work on its own merits. I'm just saying that you're not going to get discounted because of your background. As a matter of fact, they're encouraged I think the community in general is encouraged by the fact that, that you're representing a certain group that's not creating enough businesses, not becoming entrepreneurs. And so there really is a demand for that you'll see out there. So I'm saying use that to your advantage. Be smart about this, right? This is like a chess game, and I want you to be smart on how you win this chess game. And so if you tune into this session and work with us, we're going to try to give you these skills. You know, expectation is we'll fail a little bit, and part of failure is part of how you learn as an entrepreneur. And we're not making any promises. We're saying it's a lot of hard work, but man, it's like a chess game. You just have to learn how to play the game. You have to be real methodical and strategic about it. We're not saying you got to go double down on learning how to program or code or something specific. Not that that's not important. We're just saying for the purposes here, it's not a prerequisite. Cool.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, again, like that's very transparently that is what's going on, where like there's a lack of people of color who are pursuing like entrepreneurship and exploring the technologies that we'll discuss in this program. And so I think for me, like in my personal experience, it's really about like kind of learning how to navigate the opportunities that are available, and really searching for those opportunities and connecting with almost like the people who run the programs or who have like a position of power where they can help you secure funding. And so it's like that's what really, at least what like as part of the Exponential Destiny team, is really what I want to help with.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I'm glad you share that, Marco. I mean, again, hopefully you guys are all listening. Take advantage of this situation. Look at Marco's getting those opportunities, not because he's of color or from a low-income family. He's doing it on his own merits, but people are sitting up when he comes in a room. If his idea is no good, they're not going to do you any favors, Marco, but you're coming in with a good idea, but they're sitting up because they're like, finally, we got someone representing a community that we want to get part of this exponential entrepreneur ecosystem to start businesses. Because if you do it, others will learn how to do it and it will spread, and that helps society overall, right? Mm-hmm. So listen to what Marco said, that as he walks around, he's getting not special attention, but he's definitely getting attention. And there is money out there. Now you might be thinking, oh boy, but if I get money, what does that mean? Venture capitalist, angel investor, what does it mean to get money? Does that mean that if I don't pay it, I'm going to end up at the bottom of the lake with a cement block? Like, I don't know, you may not know what we mean by venture capitalist, angel investor. If I don't pay it, like what's going to happen? Am I going to go to jail? Am I going to get sued? Don't be nervous, because the way it works is you come up with an idea, you get your act together, you come up with an idea, you present it. And if you're presenting it to me and I'm an investor, I'm a venture capitalist, I'm a social entrepreneur investor, or I'm an angel investor. Angel investor means I'm a high net worth individual that's got a lot of money that wants to put it into other business ideas. And if I put it into your idea, I might take 20% of the company, which means if and when it takes off, I get to benefit in the upside as you run this business. That's the quid pro quo, because I gave you the money. You basically are saying if the business does well, you'll give me a percentage of the profits, right? If the business doesn't go well and it fails, that's the risk to the investor. You're not in trouble. You're not going to get sued. Well, I'm not going to say you're not going to get sued, because you could get yourself sued if you do something completely nefarious, but you're not going to get thrown in jail. You didn't do anything illegal. No one's going to come knock on your door late at night because you're not dealing with illegitimate places to get funding. You're dealing with professionals that say, I'm going to take a bet on you. I'm going to invest in you. Investors, I do some of this investing myself. I know I'm going to lose a percentage of my portfolio every year. I just know. But I know that some percentage is going to do well, really well, and it makes up for anything I don't do well. So when we say free money or money, it's not free, but it's money that you're going to get to go forward with your idea. And you're only going to get it if they have confidence in you. And if you got, if you got your plan and you execute.
Yeah.
Now, it would be ashamed if you fail because of laziness or incompetence. You're not going to go to jail because of it, and people will be disappointed. So that's bad failure, right? Because of incompetence or laziness. But good failure is you gave it your best shot. You did all the right things, but there were some things you hadn't learned yet. You made some mistakes and it didn't work out. Or maybe you predicted the market the wrong way. Maybe the tennis racket idea we just thought of, maybe we try it and nobody plays tennis. We got the demographics wrong. Nobody's going to play tennis. So the model never really took off. So what was the harm in that? It's like, okay, some investor lost a little portion of their investment, or maybe they repurpose that investment and you try another shot at it, right? So you got to make sense of all this when we use, that's again, you guys got to give us feedback because we don't know when we say things like you go and raise money. I would imagine if you never had this conversation before, you're not even sure what that means. But that's a little bit of what that means.
Yeah, and I think just to also add to that, at this point, I'm thinking like, if I was, watching this from the other, as a participant, but it may seem like I know we've kind of talked a little bit about how there's like a lot of presentation and coming up with an idea. And there are also other ways that we can discuss. Notably, like for me, like I'm a big lover of like proposal writing, right? Where like I almost like want to say like you don't even have to be like actually you don't have to be the best like presenter, the best most articulate, right? Like you can outsource that. You could literally grab a team member and they can do the presentation for you, and you could just work on the proposal.
Yeah.
Or, and I'm speaking from experience because I've done this before, where like I got like I did a kick-ass like presentation with like a friend, and then like we went to this organization, we had this idea, and I was like under the impression, my team member was under the impression that we would have to actually like do a series of meetings, right? But the proposal was just like at a level that we just worked so hard on that proposal that we went to the initial meeting and they were like, yeah, we're gonna fund it all. And so it's like that's a situation. That's like one scenario in my personal life where like it just happened that you come in with like a not ready with like a proposal or something like that. But I do want to say, like, in case you may be in a position, because I know I definitely like a few years ago, particularly like 8th grade, 9th grade, like I was in a position where like I didn't like to put myself out there. I was not like up for like getting in front of a classroom or particularly in front of adults to present on like an idea, specifically talking about like topics like exponential technology. And so in case you're feeling, any of that doubt, don't be afraid about that, because there are other ways to get your ideas out there.
That's awesome. Yeah, just don't be scared. There's no reason to be scared. We're going to help you. That's the advantage of having mentors and coaches is we can help evaluate your ideas and tell you before you go out and fail whether or not where your risks are. We've all got experience, so we can help you. The last thing I'll mention, we'll move on, is I also want you to realize that you could be up and running very quickly on something based on a passion. Let's say I mentioned to you guys, my daughter is an entrepreneur who's doing a yoga teaching course. She doesn't teach yoga. She teaches people how to set up a business to teach yoga, right? We'll have her on as a guest mentor at some point. But you can take something that you just have a passion for, and you'd be surprised within, an hour and $20 or less, you could have a website up and running that can actually make transactions that people can come in and pay $1 to have you teach them a cooking lesson. Maybe your family has amazing cooking and amazing recipes. Maybe you immigrated here from another country and you've got this amazing cuisine that your mom makes, and you're like, Mom, your food is so good, and every kid loves their mom's food, but this mom can make food that everybody loves. So the kid, the student realizes, Mom, we should take your food and like do a cooking show and ask people for $1 every time they come in to contribute $1, because the food's amazing and it's really unique. And sure, is someone in LA maybe going to come in and be on that Going to pay $1? Maybe, maybe not. But you got to remember, you're on the internet. You have access to every country in the world. 4.5 billion people. We talked about this yesterday. How many people are on the internet today? 4.5 billion are connected to the internet. How many people on the planet today? About 7.5 billion. That remaining gap of 3 billion or 4 billion people, 3 billion people, we're going to fill that gap in the next several years, meaning everyone will be on the internet on the planet. Close to 8 billion people will be connected. So you launch a website to sell, to sell for $1 cooking lessons, and you get someone from, my daughter who's doing the yoga thing has people from Poland, has people from Russia, has people from Japan, has people from Brazil, all on there, right? So it's a whole world out there. So I don't want you to think there's any limitations. You can do this just based on the knowledge in your head, and the only product and services is what in your head. Okay? Cool. Move on.
Great.
Okay. The other element here is this core team, and what Marco and the team, Pablo, Kevin, Noella, and Christensen, what this core team brings to the table is they are individuals who have been in your shoes. And in Pablo's case, he's still in your shoes because you're still in high school. So they are in the high school that you're part of. And they're doing this. And they're going to share with you what they've learned. And on top of that, they have a network. So you see the graphic there? They have their own communities, their own network. So each one of them knows of some student. Marco, you're at Dartmouth. You could easily call a friend at Dartmouth who came maybe from lower income neighborhoods of Boston or of Louisiana or somewhere and get them on as a guest speaker here with us, right?
Yeah.
So we got a wealth of knowledge, experience. I think any question you ask, we're going to find someone who's been in your shoes, that can share with you how they turn their passion or idea into something to start a business. We talked about this yesterday, so I won't go through it, but then we have the network that I'm going to bring to the table. So one piece of the puzzle is this network of young students or young entrepreneurs coming from your shoes, low-income neighborhoods and communities with a lot of racial diversity. What I'm going to bring to the table is a lot of racial diversity, but these are now professionals that are out there. I'm going to bring some world-renowned professionals. These are the people that I look up to. These are people that I mentor, that I've learned a lot from. This is a sampling of kind of a very close network that I have. And then there's a lot of people beyond this network. I have a whole ecosystem, but these were individuals that I first thought of when I said, who's taught me something pretty amazing, who I just have great respect for, I think is an amazing individual, amazing entrepreneur. And this is a handful of them. And I haven't asked only but a few of them yet, but they're all just great individuals. And when I reach out to them and I say, hey, I've got X number of students from a variety of different high schools that are coming from low-income neighborhoods that are trying to learn how to be entrepreneurs. Can you share a little bit of your knowledge? They're going to come in and they're going to get on a Zoom call with us for a session and spend 30 minutes, 40 minutes to share some of their knowledge. And these are crazy, amazing individuals. There's governors there, they're heads of state, the former president of the United Nations, a world champion gymnast. The list goes on, right? So I really have this interesting network, CEOs of large companies, some of the largest companies in the world. We're going to bring them together. You're going to have access. I mean, this is stuff that in my professional life, we charge tens of thousands of dollars for people to have access to this network, to hear these talks and hear their words of advice. Our goal here is nonprofit. It's all volunteer. And they're going to want to volunteer to bring some of that knowledge to you because you're just not getting access to it. So, see what's happening here. This is our theory of impact. These are all the pieces of the puzzle. The last piece of the puzzle is private citizens. I'm a private citizen. Marco's a private citizen. Pablo, the rest of the team, Kevin, we're all private citizens, right? We care about our communities and we're all concerned. The thing that keeps us together is we're concerned about the current public education system and its ability to prepare students for the exponential pace of change.
5-minute warning, by the way.
Okay. So we don't want you, thank you, Marco. We don't want you to be in the workforce and prepare for any type of job, even if it's a craft, blue collar or white collar, and find out that an artificial intelligence or robotics took that job away from you in 4 years. We want you to learn how to be your own entrepreneur and kind of peek around the corner. And so that's where we're going to bring that experience and education and passion to bear. And this is, we're doing this for primarily, I mean, anyone can join this, as we talked about. You can be an adult learner, you can be in middle school, you can be in a high school outside of Los Angeles High School. Feel free to join, but where we're focused this program right now is we're really speaking to young people that are in our community here. That is that segment, which, looking at the clock, we did pretty good because we got time for some Q&A and we got time for our ceremonial ending, which you guys all love. I realized yesterday when I did that you couldn't hear the Lose Yourself music from Eminem, so I just look stupid doing this at the end.
No, we could hear actually.
I hear, yeah, briefly. I think I want to mention something, Marcus, real quick.
Yeah, well, listen, at this point, we got 5 minutes left, so I want to talk a little bit about what we're going to do next time. Next time, which would be Monday, we're going to drill down into getting real specific about our goals and objectives of the program. That will kind of round out this theory of impact. And we'll also discuss on Monday how you can now decide, like, what's the prerequisite for being in this program? Like, do we suggest that you jump into this program now that you've heard what you've heard? I already told you that criteria is you're intellectually curious and you're passionate and you want to spend an hour with us instead of playing TikTok, or not playing TikTok, but making TikTok videos for an hour. Whenever you see me smile like that, I realize I made a statement that sounded like something my mom or dad would say, and I kind of roll my eyes like, okay, like getting on the TikTok, like I don't even understand the tech anymore. It's like too new. Okay, so with that, why don't Marco, anyone?
Kevin, I think wanted to say something too.
Yes.
Yeah, so I kind of just want to mention, I mean, I still have a long way to go in my like business career, startup career, but something I've learned over the few years that I've been working is kind of, if I had to describe like the key to success for like entrepreneurship or like startup culture with one word, I would be initiative, because I feel like initiative is very important, especially in young students and young adults, taking the initiative to be where you want to be, to do what you want to do. And for here, the example would be you guys being here. That's the first step to kind of creating your own business, because you're here because you want to be here. You don't have to be here. You're giving us your time, so we want to give you our time. And I feel like as long as this stays in a mutual kind of learning agreement, kind of like you're listening, you're teaching us, we're listening, and we're teaching you. I feel like both of us will actually benefit a lot from this program and learn a lot. And kind of just always keep looking for new opportunities. Don't just stick. Keep coming back to this program, but if you hear of something else that's coming up, some sort of program, something that's going to benefit your professional business career, go ahead and take it, because business is about initiative. You can't just sit down and kind of just wait for things to come at you. That's not how it works. You kind of have to get up and kind of look for stuff yourself. And that's something I learned. I feel like that's something that's very important. Kind of just look around, figure out, do some research, and kind of just put yourself out there. Like always be out there, always be looking for new opportunities. I feel like that's very important.
That's awesome, Kevin. You know what? Let's try to do a poll real quick, because I want to see if this functionality, how this works. I've done it a few times, but I'm going to launch this poll. Let's see what happens if you guys can see that question. Everyone see that question? This is what I want to do. Yes or no, or kind of. I understand Exponential Entrepreneur's theory of impact. And here's the thing when I say, this is how I want you to read this statement. Part of the goal here is to give you a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel in terms of where you could head, and get your confidence up that you could actually be a self-sufficient, provide for your family, business owner, and entrepreneur. And to get to that goal, it means you have to believe in this theory of impact. So what we're asking here is, do you have some confidence now that you've heard? If you're on the call yesterday, you're on this program today, I'm kind of curious to see, are you starting to feel confident that you understand and you believe in this theory of impact, that you see that I kind of get this, I kind of feel confident that this might work. And yes completely can be with a little asterisk of yes completely, but I'm still, you can still be a little hesitant and say yes completely, even if you're not completely sure. I don't know if that makes sense, but I don't want you to feel like you're 100% gung-ho. It's basically a question of, yeah, I think I feel pretty confident. Like I see why this could work for me. I see how this program is being put together to actually make the impact to help me become that entrepreneur. No, not really, and it's okay if you don't hear it yet or see it yet. And kind of means I heard some things, but I'm not really totally getting it. I'm not really convinced. At least I'm not that confident that this is going to work. It's not a question of you're going to be an entrepreneur. It's a question of, do you see the strategy here that you're confident that if you pay attention, you're part of it, and we see this through, that it could work. So with that, why don't you guys fill out that poll, submit it. I'm kind of curious how this works. I think it'll give me the results.
Does it show how many people?
Yes, I got 9. Well, it says 9 of 12. So if there's 10 of 12, there's a couple more of you. Hopefully you can do this. Sorry, actually there's more than 10 of. Oh no, that's something else. Sorry. 83% of the people. There's more people than that. This says 83% have voted. So there might be a handful more people. We pretty much got them in. So look at half of you, 50% said yes completely, and 50% said kinda, but no one said no, not really. And that's good. That's great. It would have been okay if someone said no, not really, because we're only on our second discussion, but that's pretty good. That means you guys are seeing how this could have a potential. And that's what we wanted to do, is we want to start giving you not false hope, but real hope that there is a way to do this. Okay. I'm going to screenshot this for a second too. End the poll. All right. Well, next time, like I said, we're going to cover the goals and objectives. We'll do that on Monday. We're going to send out a new calendar invite. I think every week we're going to send out a new one for the rest of the week. That way we don't have a bunch of, I don't know, what do you think? Well, we'll talk about it offline, Marco, and how we do this, but I was thinking we change it every week. Can someone from the group, I mean, you guys are asking good questions on chat. Does anyone feel comfortable enough to introduce themselves or just to say hi? That way it will prove that you're not all robots and that we're not talking to robots here, that someone's faking us out, that we're getting punked. Does anyone feel comfortable enough to take their mute off and just anything? You can tell us what school you go to.
Hi.
Hi.
My name's Stephanie, and I go to Animal Ralph Bunch.
Ooh, nice. Giving your Nava.
Thanks, Stephanie. I like the cover photo with that's like a little mouse giving a peace sign. That's awesome.
It's a hamster.
It's a hamster. All righty. You know who would have figured that out? AI, artificial intelligence would have figured out that's a hamster, not a mouse. Did you know that artificial intelligence, machine vision, is better than humans in determining what pictures are? About 3 or 4 years ago, I think it was, when artificial intelligence became better than, statistically speaking, better than humans in identifying objects. So AI has surpassed humans' capabilities for that exact reason, because AI can look at anything, a picture of anything, and tell you what it is. Two kids playing in a park, a bird in a tree, very sophisticated. But the reason they're better than humans is that reason. I thought that was a mouse. The AI knows that that's a hamster. And Stephanie obviously knows that's a hamster.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that there was like an AI program a few years ago that they had to shut down because they created like 2 robots, but they started to create their own language and talk to each other, so they had to shut it down.
Yes. Hey, Stephanie, here's a homework assignment. I'm familiar with that article. I want you to pull that up and do a little research. And when you're ready, it doesn't have to happen tomorrow or next week. It can happen whenever you tell us. I'd like you to be one of our guests and you just share that, you just describe that whole thing, because I remember that. I want you to describe to people what happened there. Do a little research. You're up for that challenge.
Can I just like talk? Do I have to turn on my camera?
No. First of all, you'll do it on another session, but you can do it any way you want. You can have a slide that you can share. You can send it to us and we'll put it up. You can just talk to it, but do it after you do a little research so you can gather your thoughts and tell us about it. Because that is, I remember that there was 2 robots that started, it was something weird, right? They started it's called machine learning. The robots are learning how to become smarter on their own. It's called machine learning artificial intelligence. That's the new type of artificial intelligence called machine learning. It wasn't feasible years ago, but now because computers are so powerful, artificial intelligence is actually now teaching itself to learn. And it's ridiculous what it's doing. Some of it's scary, and we'll talk about some of the ethical issues, but some of it's very promising. But I remember that example that there was two computers that were basically teaching each other, and they basically started to communicate, and the scientists are like, pull the plug, the things are talking to each other, we don't know what they're saying, like they're gonna do something different. Thank you, Stephanie, for chiming in. Anybody else before we call it a day and get to our weekend? All right, you know what that means.
Hi everyone, my name is Justin. I'm a senior at Bourbon Day High School. Yeah.
Cool, Justin, thanks for joining. Were you on yesterday as well?
Yeah, yesterday my Wi-Fi was kind of laggy, so I could just hear like here and there. But today was fine, so yeah.
Well, watch the recording. You can go on the website and watch the recording from yesterday so you can pick it all up again, or even if you want to go through it again just to reinforce the learning. It's on the website, exponentialdestiny.com, if you didn't hear everything from yesterday.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. All right, well, thank you to the Expo D team, Marco and everybody. As usual, you guys were awesome. Next session is gonna be Monday of next week. Just look for, if you registered, and also now that you got a little more familiarity with this and you feel comfortable enough, get your older sibling, your younger sibling, your parents want to listen in just to hear about it. Tell your other friends in school. Remember, we have the Instagram page at Exponential Destiny. You can go on the Instagram page and start doing stuff there as well. And as usual, our theory here, our motto, we got your back. Now we're going to go exponentially disrupt this. Signature move here. Expo D squad out. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Have a good weekend.
Bye, guys.
Have everybody. Have a good weekend.
Okay. All right. See you, Marcus. See you, Kevin. Pablo.
Marcos, Chris, Noelia.
Have a good one.
All right, guys. Take care.
I think Kevin.
Bye.
Marcus.
All right, Pablo. How do I leave?
Okay.